To add borders and sashing to your quilt pattern, it's pretty simple, but these two shapes need to be different sizes and different quantities depending on the quilt size that you're working with. And so for that reason, they have to be added slightly differently. We're going to start by just clicking Add Row. Here you're going to select NA as the block type. This block is going to be there in every single one of your patterns. It's just not going to show up in the block type menu. It's just kind of a default block that's there in the background. And then we'll start with border for the shape and select the default method. When you do that, it's going to disable your pieces per block and dimensions for that piece, and that's because those are going to be inputted through the fabric options panel. So we'll go ahead and start editing our fabrics. By default, this is going to give you a vertical border and a horizontal border pair for one quilt size, and then you can add additional as many as are needed. So we'll select the color or the fabric types for each of our border pieces, and then the size that's associated with this. So if I need these for the baby size, I'm going to select baby. And then I'll put in the dimensions for my border pieces, something like that. Now, if I need to add borders for the throw size as well, I can do that by just clicking Add Border. But if one size doesn't have any borders and the other one does, you can also just leave that off. It's not going to mess anything up. You don't need to have a set of borders for every single quilt size in the pattern. So if I want to add borders for my throw size, I can do that. And these can be a different width as well, something like that. And then if I have multiple borders per size, I can just continue kind of this process as much as I need to. If I added too many sets of borders, I can just hit the little trash can icon and that is going to delete a border set. When everything looks good, just hit save. And that is how you add border pieces. To add sashing pieces, it's going to work very similar. We're just going to come in here and select the sashing shape. By default, that is going to assign this NA block type as my block type. These pieces do not work unless that block type is NA, so it is actually not going to let you change this. If you change it, it's going to default back to NA. Again, all of my pieces per block and dimensions are going to be disabled. That's by design. When we pop into the fabric options panel, it's going to look a little bit different, and that's because there's a little bit more freedom when it comes to sashing pieces. So with border pieces, you're always going to get a pair of horizontal and vertical borders. So you're going to get 2 horizontal and 2 vertical borders per border set always, and they always come in a set. For sashing pieces, we have a little bit more flexibility. We can specify the quantity we need as well as the quilt size, just like we did before, and then their dimensions. So if I need sashing pieces, for instance, maybe I need 15 of them for the baby size, but I can also add cornerstone pieces or any other pieces that don't kind of scale with a specific block type. So if I needed to add cornerstone pieces for this baby size, we could just hit Add Piece and select the fabric type for that and the number that I need. And it will only assign these pieces in this color to the baby size and not the other sizes. It can do the same thing for the throw size. And let's say, for instance, I don't need any cornerstone pieces for the throw size, but I do need some horizontal sashing pieces, so big long strips that kind of go across the center there, something like that. Once you have all of the sashing pieces that you need added in here, again, to remove any, you can just hit the trash can and that will delete that particular sashing piece. When you're ready, just hit save. And now we're ready to calculate. And if we scroll down into our fabric cutting table, you'll see that we've added our border pieces that have different dimensions depending on the quilt size. And then we've also added our sashing pieces that have different quantities depending on the quilt size. And then up in Fabric A, you can see those cornerstone pieces that we added just to the baby size, but not to the throw size.